Hi, Robin. Hope you're doing well. Hi, Robin. Hi, Nish. Hope you're doing well as well. That's great. Okay, so I've got a number of apologies today, but hopefully there'll be a couple of more people joining us. So as we wait to see who else is joining us, you've both been here before, so you know what I like to say. Do go into the chat and let me know what you'd like to gain from today's session. Today we're talking about how to use ChatGPT. Well, not just ChatGPT. I would say any large language model to help you with editing. Okay, so just go into chat and let me know what you'd like to gain from today's session. Welcome, Guy. Thank you for coming to the forum. I don't know if you heard the last bit of what I just said here. Just go into the chat and put in what you'd like to gain from today's session. And that way that helps me. It means that hopefully I cover it. And if I can't cover it, then I can cover it in a future forum as well. So that way everybody gets what they're looking for from today. You are giving me 45 minutes of your valuable time. So I want to make sure that you all get what you're looking for. So just go into the chat and put in what you'd like to gain from today's session. Hello, Guy. Lovely to see you. Hello there. Hello. So yes, just go into the chat and put in what you'd like to gain from today's session. And that way I can structure this session so that everybody gets what they need from it. We've got Jill coming through as well. Hello, Jill. Welcome to the forum. I hope you're doing well, my love. Oh, you were there and then you were gone. Hello, how are you doing?
Good, good, good. Oh, you can hear me. Great. Yeah, no, I'm good. I've only got half an hour, but I know that's when you're going to pack it all in. So I apologise in advance. I will be disappearing dead at 12:30, but I'm just looking.
That's okay. Well, we'll try and pack in as much as we can, for you. Okay, so yeah, just go into chat, put in what you'd like to gain from today's sessions, and then it will actually be, I'll be able to structure it. The whole point of the forum is it isn't just me talking and just giving you loads of stuff. There is a bit of that, but it's also about getting you guys to ask me questions and even speak to each other and help each other. Welcome. I've only got JF, so I don't know your first name, JF, but welcome, JF. So yes, just go into chat and put in what you'd like to gain from today's session. So I've got Robin, so I'm mostly here just for connection. I recently published a book. I know you have. I'm so excited for you. I'm not currently working on another, but just happy to get any tips on using AI. The good thing here, Robin, is what I'm teaching. I always talk about books because I'm a publisher. So of course, what do you expect me to talk about? Of course, I'm going to talk about books. However, you have to remember we have a world of content out there, far beyond books. So a lot of what I talk about, you can use for articles, you can use for social media posts. Hi, Jill. Lovely for you to join us. So yes, a lot of that, I always talk about books, and I always look back and go, I shouldn't just talk about books, because a lot of what I teach about you can use in all kinds of content. Okay. Nish says using LLMs to automate editing, using daisy chain LLMs to improve results, using LLMs to edit in a particular role style. I'll be covering some of those today. Regarding daisy chain LLMs, that's getting very, I'm starting to do that, Nish. I'm not going to be covering that today because I don't want to bamboozle people, because I am doing an AI implementation certification at the moment. So I've got to be careful. It's very easy as human beings, if I just give too much information just to get bamboozled and then just switch off completely, which is the last thing we want. So I won't be talking about daisy chaining LLMs or chaining them, but I certainly will be talking about editing, and I will be talking about editing in a particular role. Guy says possible use of ChatGPT in editing. That's definitely what we're going to cover. Okay, so let's get started. So let me just start sharing my screen first of all. Okay, so can you all see this? I just want to make sure that you can see my screens. Thank you, Jill. Okay, so let me just start this. Okay, so first of all, welcome to the Thought Leader Author Forum. A number of you have been here before. We've got a couple of new people as well, so welcome. So for those who haven't been to the forum is in two parts. First part is we talk about the topic of the day. So today we're talking about book editing, but as I just said before, you can use these prompts for editing any kind of content really, but book editing or any kind of content editing, I should call it, prompts that can save time, energy, and money. Okay, what I mean by what time and energy is self-explanatory. If you can get something done for you instead of you having to do it, saves you time and energy, but also saves you money. What I've noticed with a lot of my clients is when they are using ChatGPT or other LLMs, I say ChatGPT mainly because that's the one people recognize, because that was the big one that came out 2 years ago. But you could be using something else, and everything I teach you is interchangeable. You don't have to just use in ChatGPT. You can use it in Gemini. I use Gemini a lot because my business is based on Google. My emails, everything, my infrastructure is based on Google. So it makes sense for me to use Gemini because it's already integrated in. I don't have to have any integration hassles. I'm also a fan of Claude, which is another LLM. So whatever I teach, when I say ChatGPT, don't think, oh my God, it means that I only can do this on ChatGPT. You can take whatever I say and put it into another LLM, and it just works as beautifully there as well. Okay. But what I've learned regarding the money bit, because a lot of people do say, well, how does it save you money? Well, first of all, time equals money. So there's that. But also what I've noticed with a lot of my clients is they're now using ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, or other LLMs. And what they're doing is they're making it easier for the editing process. So when the professional editor gets the book, they're going through it in a much faster pace, which means they charge less. So if you are using professionals, if you can use LLMs like ChatGPT in conjunction with professionals, you'll find that you may even halve the work that professionals need to do, which means it saves you money as well as time and energy. Okay, so that's what we're going to be discussing in part one. And then part two, my favorite bit, that is when I open up to the floor. You can ask questions on editing, on prompts, AI, or anything else. Okay. So, oh yes, and also to thank you for coming. If you'd like to take notes, feel free to take notes, but you will get this workbook sent out to you by Joycey, my wonderful assistant who is there with you. She will send it out to you usually mid-morning or early afternoon in the UK time, so very early in the morning if you're in the US, but you will get this. So therefore you don't have to take notes. You can just sit back and listen to me, and then know that you're going to get all of this plus a lot more that I won't be able to cover today in a workbook tomorrow. Also, to thank you for attending. I would love for you to pick one of these amazing causes, and we will donate on your behalf to thank you for coming to the forum. So literally all you have to do is, I mean, the hardest thing you have to do is just picking one of these causes. That's what I find the most difficult thing, because you just think, but they're all great. I want to give to all of them. So that's the hardest thing you have to do, is just pick one of these causes. And then we actually make the donation on your behalf. So literally it doesn't cost you a penny, doesn't cost you a cent. In fact, while I'm talking, let me actually put that into the chat now. And then that way, oh, that's not the nice one. It should be, I do have a nice one. Let me just check. I can give you this one. Actually, you know what? I'll just give you this one. I usually have a nice pretty link, but let me just give you this gobbledygook one, because it doesn't really matter. If you click on it, it takes you to the same place, doesn't it? So there you go. Click on that link. You just pick one of these causes and we will donate on your behalf just to thank you for coming to the forum. Okay, so let me go back to here. Okay, so earlier this week, I polled my audience on LinkedIn and I asked them, would you trust ChatGPT to edit your book? 16% said yes. That kind of says it all. Actually, what's been interesting is it has been eking up. When I ran this poll, I've run this poll twice before. The very first time was just 5 or 6 months after ChatGPT came out. And then it was like 3% or 4%. The second time it run up to, I think, about 9 or 10%, and now it's 16%. So it's quite interesting as we get used to AI in our lives, how that is creeping up, but still quite low, 16%. A whopping 65% said no, and a 19% said not sure. So that gives you an idea of where we're at with AI at the moment. We think it's amazing. We know that amazing things can be done with it, but we're not really sure about just letting it go off on a leash and do what it needs to do. Some of the comments I received. So I've got Babner says, while AI tools like ChatGPT are valuable for brainstorming and basic proofreading, I wouldn't trust them with full book editing. It's very, very true. This is all about having a human being. It's called human in the loop. That's what it's called in the AI world. You need to have a human being in the loop. We're not really at the stage, not yet anyway, where you can just let AI run amok. Things will go wrong. Robert says, nope, I'd use something like Grammarly that's specifically designed to spot spelling and grammar errors. I see where Robert is coming from, actually. And this is one of the key things I'm learning as I'm training to become an implementation expert when it comes to AI. One of the things I'm learning is that you have things like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Mistral, that's another LLM. You've got Llama as well from Meta. What I'm realizing is these are really, really good systems, but they're general systems. And what's exciting at the moment is other developers are then piggybacking off of those systems and creating specific tools. So yes, you will find, for example, Grammarly, it's designed for editing. So absolutely, is Grammarly better than ChatGPT? Yes, it is. It's absolutely better because it's a bit like having, I guess think of ChatGPT or all of these LMs like what are those knives called? You know those knives that do everything? A Swiss Army knife. You know, you get a Swiss Army knife that does like about a gazillion different things, but none of them particularly all that well. You can just about survive with it. But I mean, I also remember my dad used to have one with a nail clipper on it. I don't know why that was like a survival tool, but then I had a nail clipper. I could never cut my nails properly with that thing. Never. It was terrible. I always needed a proper nail clipper to cut my nails. So it's a bit like ChatGPT is a bit like that. It can do lots of things, but it really involves you understanding how to use it. Whereas if you get specific apps or programs that have been made for something, you'll find them much easier to use. So absolutely, I agree with Robert. He's saying he would use Grammarly. Now, the reason why I'm showing you on ChatGPT or other LLMs and not Grammarly is that for Grammarly to really work when it comes to subtle editing, you need the pro version. You need to pay for it, which I do. In fact, my entire team of editors are on a pro package from Grammarly. But I don't like showing people things where I'm pretty much saying, well, you have to go and spend loads of money somewhere. I'm of the opinion, let me show you on free tools. And then if you really like something and you want more power and juice, go and pay for something. That's how I like to teach, because that means everyone can get involved. Everyone can start using something. And then if they want to, they can upgrade to a pay model. Okay. So a little bit of a warning here before going any further. I've kind of already talked about this just a few minutes ago. There is no such thing as full automation, not yet anyway. I'm not going to talk about the future. If this is a very new and a very exciting area in technology, I have no idea where things are going to go in the next, say, 10 to 20 years. But we are not there at the moment regarding full automation of editing. You definitely need a human in the loop. Yeah. Joe, this doesn't surprise me. Joe, wonderful new connection. I think we've connected just literally in the last 3 or 4 months. As you can see, he's a data and analytics professional, so he knows what he's talking about. So the comment he left on my poll was, depends on how you use it. ChatGPT is like hiring a recent college grad who knows an awful lot about a lot of things, but also makes some pretty bad mistakes from time to time. As long as you can manage that grad well, you can do a lot, but you have to manage things well. I couldn't have put it better myself. I had this conversation with someone recently and said it is like having the most genius intern fresh out of Harvard University, brains, like you wouldn't believe, but they're still young, they're still impetuous, and they don't really know how you and your business works. So if they imagine it's their first day on the job and you just disappear, just like, okay, you're here, I'm going to go off to a long lunch now. I'm off for a boozy lunch. See you later. Do you think that really intelligent Harvard graduate would be able to run your business? Of course not. Of course not. They need to get to know you and how you do things and little nuances in your businesses. So therefore, it's the same thing when it comes to editing. You are the person who really understands your book, your message, what you're trying to get out there. You need to be in there. It's all about context. So keep thinking of these large language models like ChatGPT, like Gemini, like Claude, like Mistral, like Llama. Think of them as extremely intelligent, fresh out of the box Harvard graduates, or for all the UK people, Oxford graduates or Cambridge graduates. That doesn't mean they're going to know the ins and outs of your business. That doesn't mean they're going to know the ins and outs of your book. They need that context from you. And as I said before, there always needs to be a human in the loop. Now, I do have some people say, well, if there's a human going to have to be there, well, then what's the point? I get that a lot. But if I have to still be there, what's the point? Why can't I just do it myself? Well, you could, but it's all about, well, it's all about your energy and your time. Think about any task that you have to do now. If you can even just have 20% of it done for you, doesn't that make your life easier? Doesn't that make that task quicker? Does it even save you money? Very likely, especially if you're in a business. Time does equal money. You could have been spending that time doing something else that makes you more money. So yes, you still need to be in there. And my answer to the comeback of, well, what is the point if I still have to be in there, is that it's not about 100% automation. But even if you can automate 80% or 50% or even just 20%, that's time you've got back that you could be doing something else. Yeah. But you always got to be thinking of the human in the loop. So yeah, these are the three main ones that I use. There are others that I haven't used yet, but from what I can gather from people who I've been working with, I am in a community of AI implementation experts. So I've got some people who really are getting heavily into Mistral. Some people are messing around on Llama, and they all tell me the same thing, that they're all slightly different in what they're good at. But on a general level, especially when we're talking about editing, they all work pretty much in the same way, which is wonderful. There's nothing more annoying than you learn something and it's literally within that platform. Have you done that before? You've learned something and it's just in that platform. It's so frustrating because then if something goes wrong with that platform or you don't want to use it anymore, it's completely different on another platform. It's just so annoying. The wonderful thing is we're now seeing, especially it's now, we're going into, well, it's pretty much 2 years now since ChatGPT became publicly available. It's now coming to the stage where we're all seeing things converge and there seems to be more of a standardization that's happening throughout the industry. So what you tend to find is what works on Gemini works in Claude, what works in Claude works in ChatGPT, what works in ChatGPT, it works in Mistral. On a general level, it's starting to work really well, which makes it easier for us because it means that we can go, we're not just learning new things per platform, it crosses different platforms. So let me give you a few prompts that my editors are using and you guys can use in your books. But as I just said before, it's not just for books. You can use this for all kinds of content you're creating. So this is a big one. This is something that Grammarly does beautifully, but guess what? You have to pay for Grammarly to do this. It's on their pro version. And this is for rewriting in an active voice. Now, some of you might remember all of your English studies and lessons at school. But if you're like me, and it's been a long, long time, let me remind you what I mean by active voice. So an active voice would be, let me do a very simple one, just so you remember what I mean by active and passive voice. So active voice in here, this would be the cat sat on a mat. It's a cat and it's sitting on the mat. What's it doing? It's very active. It is sitting on the mat. Now, the passive way of saying this would be the mat was sat on by the cat. As you can see, there's extra words. It's less easily understood. Now, you're probably thinking, but I would never say that. Who would actually say the mat was sat on by the cat? No, no one would say that because this is a very simple sentence. But you'll be amazed. I work with so many clients who do this. In fact, most of my clients do this, is while they're writing their book, they actually fall into a passive tense. And I know why that happens. This is quite interesting. I've noticed that the more academically bright my clients are, the more likely they are to fall into a passive tense. There's a wonderful gentleman, Luke, who's written 2 books with me. This gentleman left school with, I think he left school with no GCSEs, or maybe 1 or 2, I forget. And he was really worried. He was like, I don't think someone like me can write books. He was completely an active voice the entire time. Just goes to show. So he didn't get all those qualifications, and yet he was always writing an active voice, which was a dream for my editors. They were like, "Oh my God, I don't have to keep switching back to active voice because this person's falling into passive voice." The more academically gifted you are, the more likely you are to fall into a passive voice and actually say things are being done as opposed to somebody's doing something. Okay. So this is wonderful because you can use ChatGPT. Remember, when I say ChatGPT, I mean any LLM. In fact, let me actually demonstrate this for you. I'm going to actually, let me just come out of this and I'm going to start demonstrating because it makes more sense for me to show you. So the prompt is rewrite this paragraph. I'm just using small paragraphs, by the way, guys, because it's just for demonstration purposes. You can, what my editors do is sometimes they will put an entire page or 2 pages of content into ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude and get it to rewrite it in an active voice. So you can do quite long passages. Would I do entire books? No, I wouldn't do that. First of all, ChatGPT and Gemini have a certain amount of content you can put into their windows. You won't be able to fit an entire book in unless you've got a really small book of, say, 15,000 words or something like that. If you got anything more than that, say 25,000, 30,000 or more, you can't fit the whole thing in anyway. Secondly, it's a little bit overwhelming. Remember, you have to still need to read it through. Remember what I said before? Human in the loop. We are not to the stage where you just throw something in there, get it to change it, and then it's great. You still need to go through it and check it for what it's done. So therefore, it makes more sense to do it in pieces. My editors tend to do it 2-3 pages at a time, unless it's someone who's written very, very short. I do have a couple of clients who wrote very short chapters. So each chapter was only about 3 or 4 pages, maybe 5 pages. In that case, they put the entire chapter in. Otherwise, they're just putting in 2 to 3, maybe 4 pages at a time. But let me show you how this is done. So what I'm going to do is I was messing around with ChatGPT earlier today, and it was very, very slow. This just goes to show the difference. So I've got a paid version of ChatGPT. I was able to get into it straight away. When I logged in with my other account for the free version, it was timing out. So it just goes to show that's the difference between free and paid. You do get better when you, but like I said, I don't like showing things on paid versions. Then I feel like I'm forcing people to buy more stuff. And if you're like me, a typical business owner, you have subscriptions going out to lots of different things. And it's always just £10 here and £20 there and £30 there. But then when you add it all up, you realize you're spending hundreds, maybe even thousands a month. Jill is nodding her head going, yep, I've got that. And you add it all up and it's like, oh my God, I'm spending literally hundreds or maybe even thousands on subscriptions to various things, which is why I always love showing people the free version. But I hope you can see you are hindered a little bit on the free version. So if you like something and works for you, do go and get the pro version because you'll be amazed at how much better it is. But yeah, my free version of ChatGPT kept timing me out this morning, so I can't demonstrate on it. But the good thing is Gemini is working. So this is actually really, really cool. This is my free version of Gemini. I've also got the paid version of Gemini as well, but I'm in the free version to show you how well it works on the free version. And this is actually good because it means that you can actually see how what I teach about ChatGPT can work on another LLM as well, and you get no difference. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Let me just copy this again. Just want to copy the actual. This is interesting. Can you see what it's doing? It's turning it into an image. Why is it doing that? If it does it again, what I'm going to have to do is put it into a notepad. But this is interesting. Yeah. Okay. So what Gemini is now doing is because I'm taking it from a slide, it's actually thinking it's an image, even though it's not. I'm taking, interesting. Okay, so the other way around is, let's put it into here. That's interesting. That's very, very interesting that Gemini is doing that. So here we go. Rewrite this paragraph in an active. So that's the prompt. Rewrite this paragraph in an active voice. Okay, and then you just submit it and it will. So there we go. So it's gone from the pollution impact study. Let me just make this bigger. The pollution impact study was completed by the team. The results were presented to the board by the team lead. The board was very satisfied with the work that was done. Rewritten to, the team completed the pollution impact study and presented the results to the board. The team lead led the presentation. The board was very satisfied with the team's work. Now, you're probably thinking, well, that I probably could have done myself rather than, well, yes, when we're talking about a small paragraph like this, actually, no, some people have said they find it difficult rewriting in the active voice, but maybe you find it easy. But imagine if you've got 30,000 words and you've accidentally been writing it in a passive voice. Can you see how quick it was? This is what my editors do. They literally put in 2, 3, 4 pages at a time, and then they read it through. Remember, human in the loop. They don't just go, oh, yes, this is great, and they copy and paste it and put it back in and say it's edited. Absolutely not. They read it through. But that's halved, at least halved the amount of time they used to take. My editors sometimes would take a couple of days just to go through an entire book of, say, 40 or 45,000 words and make sure as much of it is an active voice instead of passive voice. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering why active voice over passive voice, because it's more action orientated, it's more easily understood. The people who read books designed for thought leadership, if you think about it, these are usually books that are helping them do something. So they're helping them in their career, in their business, in their life, or whatever it is. They need action-orientated language. And it's so much more easy understood. Another thing we learned from a lot of research is that people read non-fiction books very differently to fiction books. So fiction books say completely slow down because it's the pleasure of reading. You don't want to rush through a fiction book. Imagine like rushing through Harry Potter. Like, what was the point of even reading it? You want to take your time. You want to build that world in your mind. You want to think, oh my God, I can imagine what Hogwarts is like. You don't want to rush through that. Whereas when they're reading nonfiction, especially these kinds of books, they, without realizing it, they don't even mean to, but they start rushing themselves because they're wanting to get to the bits like, help me. I need to learn this amazing thing that's going to solve my issue with whatever issue they have. So they will read at a much faster pace than they read fiction, which means if you put yourself mainly in the passive voice, it becomes more difficult for them to understand because they're reading at speed. So you need to allow for that and understand that you got to spoon feed these guys, basically. I always jokingly say to my clients, imagine you're writing to a 12 to 13-year-old and how impetuous they are. You need to make sure, in fact, I make sure all the books that we put out are understood between a 12 to 14-year age, even though no book I've ever published has been for teens. They've all been for adults. And yet we make sure that they pass the reader age for around 12 to 14 years old for that reason. And one of the key ways to make sure your book or your content, remember, I'm not just talking about books, if you want to make sure your content it hits that 12 to 14-year age range, one of the easiest ways to do that is make sure that your content is an active voice and not in passive voice. Okay, so let's go back to this. I'm just going to go on here because I've got to keep coming back here and copying and pasting, so I won't put it into slideshow. Okay, so there's another one, ChatGPT for conciseness. Yeah, this is really, really good. I love this, by the way, especially when I'm trying to make a tweet. That's the most annoying thing when you got, is it 140 characters or have they raised it a little bit now? I've got no idea. Trying to get what you're trying to say in 140 characters is just so annoying. So please use this for anything, but certainly for books as well. Remember that people's attention spans are just dropping through the hole. Every year it gets less and less. So people don't want to be reading massive books. They want to read something that they can digest in a few hours. Okay, but sometimes you're thinking, I don't know how to shorten this. You're worried that, oh my, if I shorten this, will I lose some of the power? Get ChatGPT or other LLM to do that for you. So here we go. All the prompt here is rewrite this paragraph succinctly. Or in your case, it could be rewrite this article, rewrite this section, whatever it is, but rewrite this paragraph or whatever it is succinctly. So let me show you how that works. So again, I'm going to have to put it into here, it looks like, to make sure that Gemini doesn't think it's an image. Oh, hang on, I didn't catch the prompt. And that's why.
As I've lost track of it completely, I think that's the best thing.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm just gonna, there we go. Okay, so here we go. So this was the original paragraph. The researchers delved into the relationship between dietary habits and PTSD symptoms. The study found that individuals following a Mediterranean diet had fewer PTSD symptoms. Notably, they identified a positive link between consuming red and processed meats and PTSD. You can see, even when I'm reading it, my tongue is tripping. It's a little bit convoluted, whereas it could just literally be, and it still has the same power by saying the study found a link between diet and PTSD. People who followed a Mediterranean diet had fewer PTSD symptoms. Eating red and processed meat was linked to more PTSD, while eating plant-based foods linked to fewer symptoms. It still had the same content, but it's knocked off around about 25% of the words. Now, again, you might say, well, I could have done that myself. Yes, when we're talking about a paragraph, you can probably do that yourself rather than needing to put it into an LLM. But can you imagine how much work it's saved my editors now when they can literally put in, they can read a section and then go, oh my God, this section's a bit long and winding down the road, this one. Let me just put it into Gemini or ChatGPT and see what it comes up with. And of course, they still read it through, because sometimes, remember what I said before? LLMs are like having a Harvard graduate, full of brains, but they don't always understand exactly what you need. Sometimes what you'll find is when they rewrite succinctly, they've taken away something that was important. So there we go. We have to still remember, you've got to have the human being in the loop. So you still need to read it through, because you might be like, oh, they've gone a little bit too far here. And that's what my editors do. They put a section in, but then they'll go, oh, they've gone a little bit too far here now. They've edited too much. Let me just add a few things back in. Yeah, that's the human in the loop. But I hope you can see how much time this is saving my editors, just to be able to put in a section that they feel is convoluted and just see, well, let's just see what an LLM will do with it. And then they will go through it and do a little bit more finessing if it's necessary. Okay, so that's a big one they use for conciseness. That's a big one. I always say you don't want to be writing a behemoth of a book, because people will not have the attention span to read through it. Okay, let's move on to the next prompt so this one's brilliant. My editors use this sometimes, but this one is the one I wish. I'm a former copywriter, so before I help people write books, I was writing books, and before I was writing books, I was writing copy for a number of clients around the world. So I was writing sales pages, landing pages, adverts. Oh my God, if I had this back then, I would have been so happy. I would spend days agonizing over adverts, over sales pages, headlines, wanting to increase their persuasiveness, because that's what it's all about. If you're writing an advert, you want to persuade somebody to buy that thing, click on this thing, leave an email address, whatever it is you want them to do. You want them to do something. You want a human being to do something. Therefore, you need to make sure that whatever you're creating is persuasive. What's so wonderful now is you now have at the tip of your fingers the best copywriters, their brains at your fingertips inside these large language models. So you can literally make something more persuasive for you. So let me give you an example. So this is make this paragraph more persuasive. So we've got eating a healthy diet is important for your overall health and well-being. It can help you maintain a healthy weight, lower your risk of chronic diseases, and provide your body with the nutrients it needs. You should try to include a variety of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains in your diet. So far, so okay, I guess. Now let's see how we can make this more persuasive. So let me just pop it into here. And then let's go into here. And look at what's done with it. Eating a healthy diet isn't just about looking good, it's about feeling fantastic. Straight away, it's more persuasive. Who doesn't want to also look good as well as feel fantastic? By fueling your body with a variety of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, you can boost your energy levels, sharpen your mind, and protect yourself from serious health problems. It's time to invest in your health. Start eating healthy today. It's amazing. Honestly, if I had this 10 years ago, I would have been so happy. It would have made my life so much easier. This is especially important if you're writing to convince or persuade somebody. So if you're doing adverts, or if you are doing blog posts where at the end of your blog post, you're getting people to go somewhere and either leave their email address or maybe book an appointment to speak with you or whatever it is. Put whatever content you've got on your website right now, folks. This is something I've done with my website as well. put it into Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it is you're using and see what it comes up with. Because it's like having all these amazing copywriters, their brains at your fingertips. And you can see how they do it. Now, again, remember to keep the human in the loop. Sometimes they can get a bit cheesy for my liking. So sometimes I feel like, whoa, you're going a little bit too cheesy there. You're going a bit overboard with the persuasiveness. So you may need to go through it and finesse some of it, but so much easier than doing it from scratch. Imagine having this and having to rewrite that and say, how do I make this more persuasive? You can just come into here now, and you've now got the best copywriting brains behind these systems, helping you make things far more persuasive. So use that, folks, especially if you're doing stuff like if you're doing bits of copywriting on your website where you're needing to get people to do something, start to put that content into a large language model and see how to make it more persuasive. I think this is the final one I'm showing you, but like I said, all of you folks will be getting the workbook tomorrow morning or early afternoon. That has several more prompts that I won't have time to go through today. But this is a really, really good one. I think, Nish, you asked for this, so I'm glad I'm covering this. Changing tone of voice, I think you said, you know, whether you want to. This is brilliant. And again, something that if I had 10 years ago, I'd be so happy. The number of times I had clients come to me with a piece of copy and said, we need you to make this friendlier, or we need you to make this more academic. I had one gentleman who would take lots of his content and he wanted me to turn it into a white papers, which means make it more academic. It's amazing. This can now be done within seconds, whereas it used to take me hours to do that. So you can use ChatGPT to change the tone of voice. So for example, we can say rewrite in a friendly voice or rewrite in an academic voice. Another thing you do is you can even tell it what it is. You can say, so for example, I could say, you are my friendly best friend or something, my over friendly, very, very best friend, or my BFF. Rewrite this. So you can even assign the large language model a role that you want it to take and get it to do something. So let's try this. I want it to rewrite in a friendly voice. So at the moment, as you can see, it's very dry and academic. So we've got speciesism, which positions Homo sapiens at the pinnacle of a hierarchy, is frequently employed to rationalize the exploitation of other animals for human gain. A new book contends that adopting an alternative perspective is crucial to secure the survival of Earth's ecosystem and ultimately humanity itself. I mean, it's okay. It sounds like it would be in a textbook, right? I would read that in a textbook. But say this is not a textbook and this is a book that you want to be able to get out to everybody. So, and this is too dry at the moment. Let's put this into Gemini and see what it does. And straight away, look at this, the difference. So the difference we got is humans often think they're the most important beings on Earth, but this idea can lead to hurting other animals. A new book suggests that we need to change this way of thinking to protect our planet and ourselves. Instantly made this friendlier. Now, again, human in the loop. You know your audience. So if your audience is slightly more academic, you might be like, that's a little bit too friendly. I would prefer to still use Homo sapiens, for example. And that's where you can finesse it and make sure it's right. So you still need to keep yourself in the loop, or this is what my editors do. That's why I remember when ChatGPT first became public in 2022, and I had one of my editors actually contact me in a panic. She said, does that mean you're not going to need me anymore? I said, no, I think we're a long way off from that. I absolutely still need you. So no, don't worry. I'm not going to get rid of you and my other editors because now we have ChatGPT and we have Gemini. Absolutely not. I still need them because they're still reading through. They're not going, okay, great, that's it. And then done. They're actually looking through, reading through everything, finessing it still. Has it gone too far? Remember, it's a very, very intelligent Harvard or Oxford graduate, but that it's their first day on the job. So therefore, you still need to guide it. So they're still in there, and that's what you need to do. But can you see how instantly that's just made it so much friendlier? So that's something you can do. You can change the tone. You can make it friendlier. You can make it more academic. This is something fun you might want to try. You can even give it a character. So you can even say rewrite as, in fact, let's actually do that. Should we think of, Nish, I'm going to pick on you because I can see your face in front of me. Give me a character. Give me, I don't know, like rewrite as, sorry?
In what context? What would you like?
Any character. So you could say rewrite as a gangster, or rewrite
Okay,
as Bugs Bunny, or whatever you want. I just want to see what it
okay.
comes up with because it's
All
fun.
right. Rewrite it as a kangaroo.
Rewrite as a kangaroo. How would a kangaroo? That might be a little bit much because I don't even know what a kangaroo would think.
Okay, go with Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, rewrite as Sherlock Holmes. This will be interesting. As Sherlock Holmes. I have so much fun with this just to see what it thinks of. So rewrite it as Sherlock Holmes. Let's see what it... So of course we're going to get elementary. Elementary, my dear Watson, I remark, the notion that humanity stands supreme in a hierarchical order is a fallacy, often used to justify the exploitation of our fellow creatures. This new text posits that a more enlightened view is imperative to safeguard our planet's delicate balance and by extension the future of one species. Cool, isn't it?
Can you cross-pollinate now and do Sherlock Holmes with a Cockney geezer?
Why not? Why not? Let's do this. Let's have fun with this. Sherlock Holmes, but okay, you're not Sherlock Holmes, however, but he is a Cockney. Oh, I can't even spell Cockney. Cockney geezer. Let's see what it comes up with. Crikey, Governor. It's a right old state of affairs, isn't it? It's amazing. Humans, not humans, humans think that the bee's knees, the top of the future. It's amazing. Now, obviously, you're probably thinking, well, I probably wouldn't. What would I use this in a business context? I wouldn't use that in a book. No, of course you wouldn't. Although I suppose you could have some fun in your book if you wanted to. Wouldn't write the entire book as a Sherlock Holmes, as a Cockney geezer, of course, but you could put elements of it. But it just goes to show you the power of this. It's amazing. So really do use that, change the tone, give it a character and see what it comes up with. And you may not use all of it as is. In fact, very rarely do my editors use anything that is just as is from an LLM. But it's just a great jumping off point. It is at least halving the amount of work that they used to do, at least, sometimes more so. So I hope you can see how powerful this is to really help you edit your books, but also edit any kind of content that you're creating. So let me just come out of this because I just want to see. Oh gosh, there's been lots of activity I see in the chat. That's wonderful. Okay, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm assuming everybody has at least started to use these large language models. Am I right in saying that? People are messing around on them, or, oh, Guy, you've not even started. Well, I hope, have I inspired you to get, I've shown you on free tools as well. So
well, that's, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Guy.
And by the way, I'm dressed still in my pajamas because I'm in Northern Ontario, Canada. So it's 7:44 in the morning over here.
I feel honored that you've got out of bed to join me, Guy. I feel honored because there's not many people that I would get out of bed early for. Put it that way. So thank you.
I was really impressed with this because, you know, I've become more and more aware that I should be looking into this. I have a 30-year history as a journalist, and I'm switching over to my sort of, I don't like the word retirement, but in my semi-retirement, I'm switching over to writing and editing books and kind of launching a publishing slash book editing service. And I've got right now, for example, I'm working on a book by a lawyer who has done a wonderful book about how the professional bodies have been sort of infiltrated and they're helping bring in a more sort of totalitarian style of society. But unfortunately for me, she's got dyslexia.
Oh,
So she's got all the thoughts. She's brilliant. She's very insightful. And when you listen to her talk on a podcast or something, you don't really notice it. But when she writes, it's a dog's breakfast, and it's a lot of work. And frankly, I'm undercharging her because I'm not just editing, I'm heavily rewriting. And now
yes, I was just about to say that's not even editing. You're essentially ghostwriting here now.
Yeah, and so this really, I've been meaning to look into this LLM stuff for a while, and just for things like the active voice thing was brilliant. I was very impressed with that. I could see myself using that all the time. I think for a writer like Lisa, I'm still going to have to be more than just the human in the loop. I'm going to have to initially rewrite her stuff, but I can see like, ChatGPT go through this and remove. She does this thing where she capitalizes words that don't need
Oh,
capitalization.
I've just had an author who does that. I've
And
also
it's
had an author, everything's capitalized. Like, why are we capitalizing
And
everything?
it, yeah, it's weird. It's like it's some sort of 18th century writer. And so to think like it's tedious to go through and manually fix that. So to think that I could use a tool like this to just go through and clean
Yeah,
up
you
all
can.
that kind
And
of
as long
automate.
as you read everything back, that's just the main thing. Whenever people have any issues, it's because it's like, for example, on Word, when people have done find and replace and they've find and replaced everything, but they've not checked it through. I mean, I
Right.
always say, the big example I give is, for example, if you want to contract I am into I'm, now, somebody who's uninitiated, they will just go, oh, I'll just find and replace all instances of I am into
Right.
I'm. But you can't do that. For example, say you have the Shakespearean quote, I think, therefore I am. If you
Right.
change it to I think, therefore I'm, you've now, it doesn't even mean anything anymore now.
The
So you
thing though with the persuasive one, that just blew my
isn't
mind.
that
Like
amazing? Isn't that
I,
amazing?
I mean, I can just see the utility of that for so many things. So yeah, I'm very impressed with this. And can I just ask you a quick question in
Oh,
passing? To get started with something like ChatGPT, is it something that you just install and can get up to speed very quickly, or is there a big
don't
learning
even
curve
need
with
to
it?
install it. You don't even need to, it's cloud based. So it's not even something you download and
Okay.
sits on your, no, it's cloud based. You just create an account. They'll basically ask you for an email and your name, and then they'll send you an email. You click on that email, and then you're up and running. So as I said, you've got a free account, and then if you want to upgrade, if you
Well,
want something more powerful, I do recommend it. Like, as for example, today I couldn't show you on the free version of ChatGPT because it was just timing out. But strangely enough, my paid version seemed to be working fine. So I was like, you can see where they're putting where their allegiance is to. It's to the people who are paying them.
mm,
So
right.
definitely it's worth paying for, but you can start on the free stuff. And if you like it, then it's only £20 a month. And I think I've also got the paid version of Gemini. I'm pretty sure that's also £20 a month. I forget how much it is on Gemini, only because I paid for it as part of a package, because they also give me my email infrastructure as well. So I forget exactly how much the Gemini part of it is, but I think it's roughly £20 a month. So we're not talking about things that are breaking, oh, not £20, $20 actually, US dollars. So it's less.
Okay.
So I know
Awesome.
you're in Ontario, did you say?
Yeah, I'm in Canada, so
Oh yeah, you're in
it's
Canadian dollars, which so that
but
I'm
it's still less than pounds for sure. No, that's kind of a no-brainer, really. That's a
definitely
no-brainer. I get
start
the
playing.
professional one right away.
Start playing with them, guy. You'll be amazed at what they can do. And like I said, just always in the back of your mind, just think Harvard graduate.
Yeah,
Just
for
come out of the college. So therefore, it will go wrong. You need to just guide it and sort of give it as much prompting as possible. Something that I didn't cover today, because I mean, honestly, I can talk for hours on this guy, but something I didn't cover today is to make each of these prompts that I've given you even more powerful, is actually, first of all, give it a paragraph of context. So before you even
Mm.
put these, well, you can say, this is a book about whatever it's about. The aim of this book is what the aim of the book is. Who is the audience of this book? What is this lady trying to get? She's obviously wants something. She wants to inspire the audience to do something or another. What is
Mhm.
it? You can actually give an entire paragraph of context first, and then hit it with the prompt, put it into active voice, put it into, and it works even better than what I've shown you, because now it
Wow.
has context. It knows, oh, this is the end goal. This is what this person wants. It makes it even more powerful, all the prompts that I've given you today.
Crazy. Okay, thank you for that.
Think of it,
Awesome.
always use it, think of it as another thing, by the way. I don't want to overload you because you just started, Guy. If you do get the paid version of ChatGPT or Gemini, I think there was actually a question in here that was someone was saying, which one am I using the most? I'm using all three. I don't, somebody asked me that. But yeah, I'm using all three. All three are good. I tend to find Claude seems to be better at just language. It comes out with less cheesier language. So I really like Claude for that. I love Gemini for integration. It's just integrated naturally into all of my workflows. ChatGPT seems to be good in general. So I mess around on all of them, really. I like all three of them. But if you get the paid version of ChatGPT or the paid version of Gemini Guy, you can actually put the context and it will save that context. So therefore, even if you come back to a few days later, it remembers that context, which is what's really powerful.
Cool.
From the free version, I
That's
don't
so cool.
do that. So that means if you've given it context, but then if you come back to a few hours later, it's like you've got a shiny, fresh Harvard graduate all over again, and you have to start again with them. But on the paid versions, you can actually teach it over time. So it actually is genuinely like getting a shiny graduate at work, but then they are learning day by day, they're getting better and they're understanding more about your needs to the point where they actually can do something about you.
What if you had several books you're working on? Say one was a romantic novel and one
Yeah.
was a legal kind of text. Could you will it remember the context for project
Well,
A
let me
versus
quickly
project
show you something.
B?
So let me show you if I share my screen again. So what I meant by learning context is I'm in the free version, so I can't show. So when you're in the paid versions of these LLMs, you can go into the menu, and usually there is where you can actually put in, this is what you want the context to be all the time. Okay. So that is on the paid. But on the free versions, you can just, if you wanted to, so for example, here we've been doing all of this. So it's the wonderful thing is it remembers what you've done before. So you can even give it a prompt and say, so for example, this last one, I can now give it a prompt to rewrite the previous in whatever else you want. So it remembers, you can even say, above or before, and it understands what happened before. Now, if you want to create something entirely different, you wanted to forget all these contexts, you just create a new chat. And as you can see your recent chats. So now you've created a new chat, it will forget everything else, and you can now start afresh. And now you can go back to the previous chat by just clicking on the chats. So what you tend to find is on the free version, it will still keep around about 30 days worth of chats. If you're on the paid version, it will just keep it for you for however long you need it for. But as you can see, even in the free version, there's a lot of functionality. So for example, there's stuff that I was doing, as you can see, about a month ago, I was doing stuff. I can still go back to it. And it now remembers all this context I was talking about, and I can carry on here. So I hope that helps you, Guy. Can you see how you can use that? You can flip from one chat to the next and make sure it has context.
It's brilliant, and you've inspired me because it's time for me to take the leap into this stuff, because as I grow my business, I can automate, I can just become more productive for sure.
Stay in touch and let me know how that goes, Guy. I'm glad that you feel inspired.
Yeah, I'll be on this call regularly. I like this. This is great. I'm glad I discovered you. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Okay, so we're coming up to time. Actually, we've gone past time, but I just want to say, are there any other questions or any other thoughts? Let me just actually quickly. Yes, Stanley.
Jill brought up a great point. She said, do you have a favorite AI that you lean towards? And then can you get AI to search for a name and simply change that name? I have an old book. I need to rebrand. Sorry, I have to go. But she was going to watch the replay.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. So regarding which LLM, the one that I'm using the most is Gemini, not because I particularly like it more than the others, but because of my business infrastructure. So because my business is based on Google Workspace, they've brought out Gemini and they've just automatically integrated. I didn't need to do anything. So for example, when I open my work emails, Gemini is already in there creating replies for my emails and giving me suggestions, so I have to think about what I need to reply. And like I said, I don't just automatically send whatever Gemini's given me. I do read through it and tweak it and make sure it sounds like me, but I don't have to create replies for my emails from scratch anymore, because Gemini's already in there creating replies for my emails. It's taking so much time off going through my emails every single morning. So I'm using Gemini more because it's already integrated. If you're an Outlook lover, if you're somebody who's using Microsoft more, and then they're using, well, I'm pretty sure Microsoft is invested in OpenAI, who creates ChatGPT. So then it makes more sense for you guys to use ChatGPT because your business is based on Outlook. So a lot of it isn't so much to do with preference. It's more to do with what initial infrastructure you already have. As I said, if your business is run by Google, you're more likely to use Gemini. If your business is being run more by Microsoft and you're and you're using Outlook for your emails, you're more likely to use ChatGPT. So there isn't really, for me, I found they're all pretty much work in the same way. If you're a developer, now if you're one of these really geeky people who knows all your ins and outs about AIs, then you have nuances. You'll be like, oh yes, Claude is better for this, Gemini is better for that, ChatGPT. But for the level that we're using it at, which is like a normal standard level, it really doesn't matter. They all work pretty much the same. What was the other question you had? Oh, let me just quickly run through. Tweet. Nish is saying, what's a tweet? Writing on X. Yeah, what do you even call them now, Nish? I mean, what is a post?
I'd probably call them X's, and that probably means
X's.
kisses.
That doesn't really sound the same way, does it? Oh yeah, she said, can you get AI to search for a name and simply change that name? I have an old. Well, yes, but I mean that pretty much Word can do that, really, can't they? You just find it's find and replace. So yeah, absolutely, that can be done, Jill, when you watch the replay of this. But again, remember, human in the loop. The example I gave before, you can get LLM or even just Word to search through, for example, I am, and change all instances of I am into I'm. However, if it now changes the Shakespearean quote, I think, therefore I'm, it no longer makes sense. So you still need to read through and be like, oh, I didn't want that change, I need to change it back. So in the same way, if you do that, yes, it can absolutely handle that. But you need to still be in there reading through everything and making sure it works. And there was one more thing. Oh yes, so Jill said, do you worry about copyright with AI generated text? This is actually a big one, so hopefully this will help all of you, and Jill and anybody else watching the replay. As of now, remember, this is a very fast moving industry, so please don't quote me on this because this might change in the next few months. But as of now, anything generated by AI is copyright free. Now that is a double-edged sword. It means that it's great, it's not somebody else's work, so you can use it, but you also can't copyright it. Same with images. So if you create images, AI generated images, you can use them. There's no copyright issues. You can use them. It also means that you can't even copyright it as well. You can't say this is your image because you generated it. Somebody else is allowed to take that image and use it wherever they want as well. So basically, it's a free for all. It's like I said, it's a double-edged sword. Wonderful, no copyright issues, but you can't even copyright it yourself. It is. You can't say, well, that's your work because you generated it on AI. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. If you don't have any copyright issues, it means whatever you create, you can't then impose copyright on that either. So I hope that answers your question, Jill, when you watch the replay. Okay, thank you everybody for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope you got a lot out of this. And yes, I hope to see you at a future forum very soon. Thank you for joining me.